All right, so let's get to network service reporting for service and strategic planning. So really what we've done here is we've gone through almost through the TDP process, right? Where we've created our TDP, we validated, we created our TDP scenarios, and we created a new route that's going to be in our overall TDP plan. Now we want to report out on it and do some analysis on it. So most of the day today is going to be just talking about how we do that. So so our first section here is for day 2 is network scenario reporting for service and strategic planning. So just as an overview, TBEST provides powerful tools for planners to analyze SE data, ridership, transit operational trends for their transit system and service areas. We have a scenario summary tool. We have interactive reporting, market analysis for land use and socioeconomic, TDP reports, Title VI reports, and we're able to export these to a variety of formats, including Excel, mobile geodatabase, images, and ArcGIS Online, where it retains the TBEST map symbols. So just some examples of maps that and reports here on the right. And we're going to go into a lot of the details on these, but generally these are market analysis and land use analysis and our TDP report that is a report that is generated specifically for the Florida TDPs. All right, so just some TBEST reports and mapping functioning to fulfill transit development plan requirements. And we talked about this some yesterday, so I won't go into all of the details, but generally this is just a reference for you as you're developing your TDP to say, well, there are elements of the TDP where TBEST can help me. It's not specifically just ridership estimation. So there's all of these elements will help you in that process. And if you remember from yesterday morning, I mentioned that up to 70% of the data analysis inputs can be performed using TBEST for a TDP submission. So it goes beyond just ridership estimation that you could help yourself and your agency fulfill these needs using the TBEST tool and save yourself a lot of time. Oh, so again, these are more for service planning. So you can use these reports to generate data points or in visualizations for existing service and preparing for proposed service changes. The service planning and operations analysis service reporting tools are explained here. And I think we went over these yesterday as well, where it's more in the service planning realm. So not in the strategic plan like the TDP, but more day-to-day operations and service planning, as well as grant applications. All of these can help you. These types of reports can help you with those workflows. All right, so our first section here is comparing scenarios. And so with that, we have the ability to compare base conditions to scenario alternatives using the scenario summary tool. So this tool basically is set up to compare at the route level, but you also have a system level summary that is with it as well. And essentially what you're doing is you're comparing usually a base scenario with an alternative scenario, and it's set up in the report itself so that you can see both of them side by side for basically about 70 variables, whether they're ridership variables in terms of estimated ridership, their performance variables for boardings per service mile, hour, and trip, service levels, route cost, operational efficiency, fleet estimates. All of those are kind of combined into one single report that is a very a detailed assessment of all of your service changes and then also how they perform. So it's a great tool to be able to really assess everything that TBEST is doing for all of these variables and then summarize it in one report. Okay. How you set up a scenario comparison is using the scenario summary tool. So we have in our example that we're showing here, we have our transit system that we've selected as the LYNX 2032 TDP. You have two scenarios to choose from. In this case, our scenario A is the January 2022 base, and scenario B is April 2022. And what you would do is check this compare in order to make this comparison where you're able to select scenario B. And then you would select the summary span and time period. So by default, it's going to go to weekday, but you have various options here for summarizing by week, month, or annually. You also have report filters. So if you just wanted to show specific routes that meet certain criteria, whether it's by route type or mode or other comparison options such as new routes or deleted routes, or select a subset here, define a route subset that you can use for the comparison. All of those are available to you to define your comparison so that it meets your needs, and your report is something that you can specifically use as part of your workflow. Okay, so here is a very detailed and stretched out kind of view of the scenario comparison report. And so, so this gives you some insight as to all of the variables that are available. If you look in the list here, so over on the left side of the panel, it shows you the boardings, the population variables, households, income, employment, network, service, performance, and cost variables that you can include each individual one or just some of them or just a few of them. You define what you want to see in the report. And then you can export it to Excel, of course, and each one of these categories can play out in the report. Okay, you can also use the charting feature in the scenario comparison where you can show variables that are within obviously what we just looked at, boardings, population, etc. All of those are available to you to add to this chart. So you can combine multiple variables. In this particular instance, we're showing the variables for, the routes 1 through 11. So that is what's in the chart. And we're showing total boardings, direct boardings, and transfer boardings as bars, vertical bars in the chart. So you can see all of this is kind of showing up for each route. And looks like we have one other variable in there that's not shown. But you can also sort these by route name and other sort by, so they will show up sorted. And you can edit the chart. So this edit chart up here will allow you to come in and change the chart properties, get more information from the actual data table that's being used for this chart that you can copy out and put into Excel. So you can do a lot with this charting, specifically to enhance your TDP and your outputs for your workflow for reporting for scenario comparison. You can also save the chart as an image, but of course you can snip it as well. So that's easy to do either way. Okay, so obviously we can export this to Excel. It retains its formatting in Excel, so it's very easy to use just as a specific export. So here's just some examples relative to some TDPs that were created inside of Florida. So this is, I believe, JTA, where they have a route number here, and the route name, and then the average daily ridership forecast. So essentially, this is what TBEST computes, the weekday, Saturday, and Sunday ridership forecast. And then they also have the future years. So they have their base validated numbers for population, employment, ridership, and then they have future year and relative difference. So essentially, this is the same setup as what TBEST is providing in terms of comparing these outputs. And again, this is RTS in Gainesville, where they're showing the 2019 boardings, the 2029 boardings, the absolute change in terms of counts, and then the percent change. That is exactly what's in that report, and this was part of their TDP. So, so very handy to be able to include this information in your TDP, and very easy to generate in TBEST. Okay, so let's run through a scenario comparison reporting. Okay, so so everyone may not have gotten through this yesterday. So all of the data editing, everything that we did in terms of building up to this point, building our data up in the Gatorville transit system. If you haven't gotten through all of the exercises, we've made available the day two Gatorville transit system. So I'm just going to escape out of this, and my forecasting model is complete. I'll say yes, and it'll close. So if you want to continue on with working with T-Best in day two, but you didn't finish all the exercises, you can go to the Transit Systems downloads, which is just using the downloads button here. Go to Transit Systems, and we have Gatorville Day Training Day 2, and you can just download that from here, and then you can just start working. So everything that we've done up to this point, it will have all that in it, and then you can just start working. So feel free to go ahead and start that download. Okay. So I'll give everyone a second for that to actually download because it's a little bit of a bigger file. It takes a little bit of time to download it. Okay. All right. I think that's good. Hopefully everyone has it downloaded. If not, we're not going to go fast here. It's pretty simple what we're doing. There's no editing involved. It's just reporting. So we'll just kind of step through this one by one. All right. So I'm on 5.1 comparing scenarios where we're running the scenario comparison reporting. And so the instructions are in the T-Best Explorer panel, right-click on the Gatorville Spring 2025 network scenario and select Scenario Summary tool from the context menu. So I will navigate to my Spring 2025 scenario and right-click on it and select Scenario Summary tool here. Okay, so by default, when this opens, the transit system will be Gatorville. The scenario A will be Spring 2025. So we want to check the compare checkbox and then select the 2035 constrained plan. So if you remember, that's the scenario that we just constructed that has our new Route 88 in it. We just ran the model, ridership estimation model on it. So we're going to accept the defaults, but just so you can see, you can select the individual time periods here, or you can annualize this here. So it's up to you how you want to define your summary, but we're going to stick with the default weekday summary and click Show Reporting. Oh, I don't know if anyone else got that, but I guess I need to run the model. Yeah, so if your Spring 2025 does not have a valid model run, you'll need to run it. For those of you that are able to run this report, you can just proceed with the next steps, of course. I was on step 4 of scenario comparison reporting, but the next page is step 5, and you can start answering the questions. Don't forget, if you have questions or you need technical support, you can just jump into the breakout room and Sam will help you with any technical issues. Okay, so my model run is complete. And now I can start again. So I'm going to right click on Spring 2025, go to the scenario summary tool, check the compare checkbox, go to the constrained plan, and click show report. Okay. All right, so basically the setup here, and just so you have an idea of what you're looking at, is you have a scenario A and B. So scenario A, in this case, is the spring 2025, and then B is the constrained plan. So you would then see a particular variable such as total boardings and a column A, column B. So these would be the counts for total boardings for each scenario, A and B, and then the percent change in total boardings, in this case for Route 1, and that is a total of 119 additional boardings. It is the actual count or value for it. So that is the initial summary that you get, which is basically a lot of what you're looking for is that change in ridership on a route level. And then you also have that for total population, employment, et cetera, as you're going through this, stop visits. Okay. Okay, so let's answer some of these questions. For the new Route 88, which is listed at the bottom under the new routes section, what are the total boardings and transfer boardings? So right away, we can see the additional boardings because we didn't have any in the base, right? It's an NA for spring 2025. There was no service for Route 88, so it's an NA. We have 754 total boardings. Now, by default, transfer boardings are not visible, but we can come up to our boardings group and we can turn on direct boardings and transfer boardings, and then they show up here in our list. So now we see direct boardings, transfer boardings, total boardings, and our transfer boardings estimate is 85, right? And you can see the direct is 669. All right, so what's the route medium household income? So if we scroll over to our income, let's see what we have, medium household income. We can add that in. It is 76,513. And yours might vary a little bit here because my route that I digitized might be a little bit different than yours, different stop locations. We added stops interactively, so it could be a little bit different. So just keep that in mind. All right, item C is revenue service trips. So again, we need to make sure on our service column, we have our revenue service trips is here. So yes, we can scroll to the right and see our revenue service trips at 84. That sounds right to me. The revenue miles are 919.1 for the weekday. The boardings per service hour are 10.1. And the per service trip are 9 boardings per service trip. The route cost, it comes in at 6,360.2, and the cost per passenger trip. So again, we might have to come over here and add that variable. Cost per passenger trip is $8.4. Okay, yeah, so we're able to answer some of those important questions about our new route and also see it within the overall context of all the other routes. So this is a great QC mechanism to be able to see how your routes are playing out and if does it make sense to you? So remember, this is a ridership estimation and all your inputs matter and how you digitize the route matters. And did you put the service in correctly? Did you change things in a way that makes sense? So this is a great kind of equalizer where you can come in, look at all the variables together and see, okay, well, because the employment is pretty low on the route, I can see why it would be estimating at a lower number. So maybe there's some changes that we need to make to capture the actual employment. maybe make some individual stop changes, et cetera, where we are adding more stops, doing whatever we need to do to properly capture the market, the service, et cetera, and all that kind of plays out in this report. Okay, so our next option is to click the Open Chart button, which is up at the upper left here. So we'll open the chart, and by default, you see all of the routes come in, and it's going to show total boardings. And it's going to show a comparison between scenario A and scenario B. So for every one of these bar charts, the bars, the darker shade here is total boardings for scenario A, the lighter shade is B. So you can see where there's a change. Generally, each one, pardon me, is increasing. And mainly because we have our socioeconomic growth that we applied to all of these routes, as well as adding Route 88. Pardon me. Okay. So yeah, so you can then go to the edit chart if you wish, and you can change the contents, the visual effects, or the data. So if we go to contents, if we wanted to make this a different type of bar chart, we could apply it and it would look like this, or like this, something like that. So you can change how this looks. You want to make it a line chart, you can do that as well. So all of this is kind of interactively available to you. You also have the data table. So these are the actual values that are in the chart itself. So if you just click and hold and drag down on this list and do Control C, Control V, you can copy and paste all of these values into Excel. And then you can create this same type of a chart in Excel if you wish to. Okay, very good. I think that's it. You can also sort by boarding. So whatever variable that you're actually using here, in this case, it's total boarding. Right now we're sorted on route name, but if you wanted this to be, kind of a chart that looks something like this, you can certainly do that. Okay, so we'll just close that, and I think that's it. Any questions on scenario comparison? One other just note here is you don't actually have to do a comparison. You can uncheck this and just show the report for spring 2025. And so it doesn't have to be a comparison report. It can just be a single report. You can also define, if you want just to show specific routes, you can select them just like this, click OK, show report. It will only show the ones you have selected. Okay, that's it. Let's go to our next topic.
We do have a question in the
great.
Q&A.
So the question is, if we rerun a TBES ridership model with the same settings, will the results be identical? Yes, they should be. Yes. And I'll also say too that your base should actually, whenever you run the scenario summary tool for the fall 2024, so that was our base scenario, these numbers should match exactly what you put in for your validation, right? So this is your actual validation number. The 1246 for Route 1 is what the observed ridership was for the weekday. So these should match exactly for the base year to what you input for the ridership. Okay.